Change and love can go, but tell me why are you so cold? What did I wrong? What was the fault? Or what you say is I don't know. Feelings change and love can go, but tell me why are you so cold? What did I wrong? What was the
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to a new RSCast episode. Sorry, I'm struggling here with my words. I've just woken up, apparently. And I'm here with Exposition and playing Clash of Clans. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good. I'm going to be honest. I don't really know what the word exposition means, except for the phrase exposition dump, but I'm excited to be back. You know, a lot has changed. School is returning for some people. I'm trying to get hooked up for university, and Tavish actually has some working light, so it's a good start to the week.
It is. Tavish, we can actually see him for once. See the man himself, and he's not going to disappear halfway through the stream, hopefully. But yes, we're back again for another week. Another week down, as some players will say, 7 to go. But we're here to look back at what's happened in the prior week.
Yeah, and with that, apparently I've bought a bulb. I totally didn't switch to a completely different room. But yeah, like I said, I have a lamp this time, so I'm fully prepped for this episode. No more midnight demons taking over. But let's dive straight into the weekly recap. Because, well, like you guys said, we had a full week again. And I don't know if it's going to be the same as last week, but we're just going to dive straight into it. The starting in Prospect, Glaciers Conference, Pinchmen. What happened there?
Well, only one team went double win this week, and it was the double drawers of week number 1 in Stratus. They pick up a 3-1 win against High Flyers Spark and a 3-1 win against Team Serene, who were down towards the bottom of the table. 2 good wins see them propel. No other team going double win. Terra 8-0 at the start of the week. They drop 3 games this week. One to Team Serene, where they pick up a draw, and the other to Volpes, where they pick up a 3-1 win. Still unbeaten, but their record of perfect games has gone.
Yeah, like I said, 3 sweeps, and Volpes, well, their winning streak's gone, but still good results overall. Not as many draws, only 3 draws in total, so that's pretty good, pretty steady. Now let's move to the Ignis Conference. Pegasus, what happened there?
Well, there were no double wins in Glacies. There were 2 double win teams here in Ignis, Hot Metal and Newborn, with both teams actually going 7-1. However, tomfoolery, this will be a week to forget, as they have their win streak destroyed by 2 losses to these very same 2 teams. There were 2 draws on this side as well, and I believe he said only 3 on the other side. This time it's for Protocol and Rosas, who also actually drew each other. Livens versus Nenettle are the other draw, which is an impressive result actually from Nenettle. It does end Livens' win streak. Nenettle also played Hot Metal and received one of 3 sweeps in this conference.
Yeah, and like I said, Livens no longer on that winning streak. They had their first draw. And with all those results, let's move to the how they have shaped up the table. Because after week 1, well, it was pretty standard because the results just said what happened. Now with week 2, more results, more changes. So Kingsman, let's talk about Glacies.
Yeah, and it'll be Terra staying at the top of the table, 13 wins. They've still got an advantage to second place, although that is in 2 wins now. Alta stays second place, a double draw week, secures them 11 wins. And there's 3 teams on 10 wins. Double win Stratus, Spark, who couldn't find a win this week, and Primordial, who went 6-2. This is what I mean by week 1 doesn't define anything, as all those teams having different week 1s all come together at the end of week 2. Then there's a bit of a gap to Volpez, who picked up their first win this week on 8 wins. Obscurity with 2 wins and 2 losses behind them on 7. Komodos have picked up their first win as well this week, and they're on 5 wins. Team Serene have 1 draw, 3 losses, sees them on 4-game wins. And Crusaders, the only team to have lost all of their series so far, sit on 2 wins.
Yeah, and you said it perfectly there. The top 5 has never been so close. It's now 3 teams on basically the same 2, just extending, and the rest is really close as well. And I know that Mal in the background is not going to be happy that we're ripping on 4 Templar, but yeah, they only have 2 wins, so sorry, Mal. But now let's move to the Ignis Conference. Pegasus, how is it looking over there?
Well, first thing I'll have to notice is unfortunately illusory tomfoolery having a bit of a drop this week. They started off first at the end of last week, but now after 2 losses, they do drop all the way down to 5th. However, with big drops comes big rises as well. Newborn going up by 3 positions. Hot Metal going up by 2. Protocol also up by 3. But paired with that is also Tartarus having a bit of a drop, being one of 3 teams with a double loss this week, being themselves, Tomfoolery, and 20R, who do still sit at the bottom. Albeit, I would say it's pretty close there with Tartarus, Nenettle, and 20 Riflemen, both being on 4 and 5 wins. But there's a bit of a gap there once you get to Hysteria. And from Hysteria all the way to the top, there's only a 3-game win difference. So it was definitely a game week 1 which didn't define everything. Still plenty of movement waiting to happen here in Prospect.
Yeah, and compared to the Glaciers indeed a lot closer in general. Only the bottom 3 really struggling to catch up to the rest. And with that, all close teams here at the end of week 2. Let's take a look at the fixtures for week number 3 and see how these matchups are going to play out and if there are any interesting matchups. So, Kingsman, we're starting with you. What did you pick for Glaciers Conference?
Well, first of all, I've picked out a game that should have already been played in Komodo's Primordial, which was played an hour ago. So if anyone in chat knows the result from that, feel free to put it in and surprise us. But yes, Primordial, they have their game tonight, and they also have their game versus 6th. The only big real gap in that Prospect division, 5th versus 6th. Can Primordial push the pack away from Volpez, or Volpez climb up to that group? And also, near the top, Stratus have to take on Terra this week. Stratus went on an absolute tear last week. Can they keep it up into week 3 and beat the top team in Terra? Stratus also playing Alta. So a huge week for Stratus here, and it will really show what they're made of. If they can push through this week, it'll be a really, really good showing for them, as Alta also play Komodos in a week that could really be either a battering or the comeback of Komodos.
Yeah, so a lot of eyes on Komodos. And like I said, they already played 1 match tonight. Let's see if we can get the result while we're here live with RSCast. And otherwise, we have to wait till Wednesday to see how they're going to play against Alter. But yeah, Stratus also some interesting matchups. Let's see how all of this is going to pan out. But before we're going to see any of that, we have to wait probably till next week. But in the meantime, Pegasus, what is going to be happening in Ignis?
Well, Protocol had a big rise in the end of game week 2, and they will be facing 8th place and 9th place Tartarus and Nenettle with a double header actually happening tomorrow. So that's going to be a very big game for the week of Protocol. As well, we've got Rosius, I believe that's how you pronounce it, playing both teams either side of him, Newborn and Tomfoolery. Tomfoolery wanting to get a big recovery from that last week, but it's going to happen very early in the week here, because as you can see, that first match happening tonight, and then tomorrow playing a 20R side, which is currently sitting at the bottom of the table. So definitely some time for them to catch some ground. But the main match of the week is, of course, the classic first versus second. Livens versus Hot Metal. Both teams on the same amount of game wins. This is where they can catch some ground and secure themselves that first place spot.
The classic first versus second, indeed, and also for Protocol, rough to have played that they have to play both matchups on the same night. But it's their own choice. Maybe they made a game plan for that. We'll have to wait and see. But that is it for Prospect. We're now moving one tier up. We're going to Challenger, and obviously we're starting with the results for week number 2. And Kingsman, I'm giving it straight to you this time. Let's talk about Glacies.
Yeah, no double win teams last week. 2 teams excel this week. Eclipse, who were winless last week, get a sweep over Neptunium. And they get a 3-1 win over Strugglers Shrine. A 7-1 week to propel them from a 3-5 first week as a really good bounce back. And then Raijins, a double win week from they started the season strong. They order get a 3-1 over to Neptunium again. So a very good week for them. But Neptunium, who I believe was sitting at the top of the table after game week 1, have found themselves going 1-7 and could possibly find themselves drawn into the clutches of mid-table. The only other side to go without a loss this week was Ember, who got a win over Shrine, and they got also a draw against Volpez. So a very good week for those. But Neptunium in that first place spot, losing a lot of ground.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how the standings will be after this week. Because like I said, Ember haven't lost. Neptunium having a rough week. Now, before we get there, let's first talk about Ignis. So Sir Pegasus, what happened there?
Well, there were actually only 2 teams that had a double result week, and the positive sides goes towards Orcus, who bounced back after a double loss week 1 even, with a double win versus Cypher and Canaans. Unfortunately, on the other side of things, Kapakli do continue their losing streak with 2 losses against Pardis and Apprentices. And we did, of course, have that top matchup between Mischief versus 20R, which Mischief managed to take a victory there. However, they then went on to have quite a disappointing loss against Canaans to balance themselves out. Cypher also taking the only sweep of the week, this time against Pardis.
Yeah, with all those results, let's take a quick look at the standings. Because, not that many sweeps in this tier so far. Let's take a look at how everything shaped out to Kingsman. We're going to talk about Glacies.
We are, and Raijins, the only team to stay unbeaten. 12-game wins sees them top the table, with Eclipse in second place, double win week, causing a 6th place rise. Ember stick to third, again, another team not to lose in game week 2, and it proves massive. They are tied with Tornado on 9 wins. Yukubo get their first win of the season, and it puts them up to 5th on 8 wins. Volpez still searching for their first win, but 3 draws results them into 7-game wins. Disorder, who got swept this week by top team Raijins, find themselves on 7 wins, and so do Neptunium, who have fallen 7 places compared to week 1. That shows how brutal it can be in the first few weeks. But just behind them, they have Sentinels, and it's the second team to go double loss this week in Shrine on 5 wins.
And compared to Prospect here in Challenger, everything is still relatively close to each other. One good week for Shrine Sentinels or Neptunium Disorder, and they could be closer to the top, so you never know what's going to happen. Let's see if Ignis has the same thing. Sir Pegasus, how's it looking over there?
Well, at the top of the table, you'll still see the same Premier team is Illusory's Mischief sitting in first with a 1-game win difference between second, but this was their opportunity where they could have gone clear. They've got the lowest goals conceded. They've got equal game difference with Feather, but they did lose to Canaans. Canaans who do remain at the moment here in 7th place, but I think the big story definitely comes from Orcus. After that double loss week, they got themselves the double win. They've climbed up the ranks and managed to leapfrog both Kapakli and Lunacy. Lunacy, a team which unfortunately did drop down 4 spots this week. But also a bonus story is Apprentices, after I dug into them for their very high goal conceded rate and their very negative goal difference. They've recovered that all the way back down to 0. So a team definitely on the up.
Yeah, 2 teams on 0 goal differential. You cannot imagine it. But here as well, everything is standing is relatively close. Compactly a little bit further away from the pack with a 3-win difference compared to the 4 teams above them. But still, one good week for Compactly and the table can shift completely. So let's take a look at the fixtures if we're going to have those interesting matchups where we might see any possibilities for those bottom teams to catch up, especially for Shrine and for Compactly. So Kingsman, giving it to you first. Do we have any of those interesting matchups?
Normally, we're looking at the top of the table. I'm looking at the bottom of the table. Shrine, who didn't get a win this week, or haven't got a win all season, we have a very good chance, I say, this week. They play Volpes, who are the only other team yet to get a win in the conference, so one of them might be getting their first series win this season. They also play Neptunium, both sides to go double loss, go head-to-head. Which one will bounce back better? You'll have to find out on Thursday. Sorry, I get my dates there. Then some other big games looking at the conference. Disorder have a huge week. They play second and third. They're going to really need to pull some shocking results if they're going to want to find themselves in that mid-table and potentially push themselves back upwards. And speaking about Ember, they also have Neptunium. So this is a big week, I think, for Neptunium. Can they replicate that week 1 form, or will they fall even further behind and replicate week 2?
Yeah, a lot of pressure on them because it's always difficult to replicate that top week that you had after having a, well, not so top week. But let's see, you said indeed some interesting matchups at the bottom, so all eyes on them. Maybe we can catch some on stream to see how the bottom will shape out. But before we know, well, let's first talk about Ignis. So Pegasus, giving it to you.
Well, I spoke about Mischief potentially missing an opportunity to break far ahead with that loss versus Canaans, but they've been given a second chance here in week 3. They do play second place Feather, and they do play 10th place Kapakli as well. So a match which they realistically should win with Kapakli, and a tough battle against Feather could see themselves break ahead this week. But also Orcus, I said they were a team that were on the up, going from a double loss to a double win. They've been given a huge challenge this week, having to play second place Feather and third place 20R. So I'm interested to see specifically the stories for those 2 teams and how that shapes out in week 3.
Yeah, so here as well, some good opportunities, like you said. And then, of course, for Cypher, an interesting matchup as well. Now let's move to the next tier. Let's talk about Rival, the middle of the pack, where all the players think they are the best of the entire RSC. Now let's take a look if the results actually prove that as well. So Kingsman, giving it to you for Glaciers Conference.
Yeah, and Mao will finally be happy because the Fort Templar team's actually doing well. It's Vanguard's get a 3-1 win over Sanctum. High Flyers themselves after a sweep over Hydras, but not enough. But they also get a 3-1 win over Anarchy, who picked up their first win in a sweep against Flame this week. But Vanguard's being the only team to go double win will do stuff for them in the table. They had a win-draw week, and they are one of 3 teams still that are unbeaten. But can they keep it going? Who knows?
Yeah, that's always the big question. Can they remain like that, or will they fall like everyone else normally does in the tier? We'll have to find out for a couple more weeks. But first, let's talk about the Ignis Conference. Pegasus, what happened over there?
I mean, generally, if you look at it, there's plenty of 2s on your screen. That's because there were 6 whole draws in the Ignis Conference for Rival and no sweeps whatsoever. So it was a very, very tight week. However, the teams that were able to break ahead were 20 Robin beating Journeyman, Ash beating 20 Robin, which means 20 Robin actually had the only double decisive week here, Tizok beating Onka, and Erebos beating Psychosis. That means only Tizok, Ash, and Erebos actually went positive this week. Three other teams, I believe, went neutral, and 4 teams went negative. However, there was a huge draw for Psychosis, who tripled their game wins all in that 1 week.
So, like I said, only 3 getting a positive week, 3 neutral, 4 negative. That has to have a big impact on the standings. So let's move there immediately to see how that changed. But before we're going to Ignis, we have the Glaciers Conference. So, Kingsman, how's it looking over there?
Vanguard's top the table on 11 wins, and the double win week will send them up there. It's a very good week for them, and it puts them top in what is a very close chasing pack of Sanctum, Uranum, Shock, and Mokoteki. So Uranum and Mokoteki both still unbeaten. Uranum 1 win, 3 draws. Mokoteki 2 wins, 2 draws. But it just shows how every game win is so vital. Sanctum getting that sweep over Hydras puts them above at the top of the chasing pack. Then there's a gap to Nightfall and Anarchy on 8 wins. Anarchy able to pick up their first win this week. And then the bottom 3 teams all winless so far. In Volpez with 3 draws, Flame with 1 draw, 3 loss, and Hydras on 2 game wins. The only team to have lost all 4 in Glacier's Rival.
Yeah, I wanted to say, you said that the bottom 3 didn't have any victories yet, but Volp was still on 7 wins, so they're still relatively close to make it to that top 6, and yet the bottom 5, of the top 5, I must say, all close at least 10 plus, so they have a little bit of buffer going into week 3. But before we're going to take a look at the matchups for week 3, we're finally going to the Ignis Conference. With all those results, Pegasus, how is the table so far?
Well, I said that this table was really, really close last week, and potentially this was going to be the one to blow it up. That hasn't been the case. Recon do remain undefeated, but 2 draws this week allow Tizok and Ash to just get that extra game win closer to them and to jump over Caligo. Erebos, the only other team to go positive as well. Again, that was only 1 game win. Journeyman, 20 Robin, Onka and Psychosis. The bottom 4 teams were the only ones to go negative, and unfortunately, you can see Psychosis quite far out the pack here. Onka just about scraping their way into the conversation, and you'll notice there Mirage with 8 wins here. That comes from 4 draws out of 4 this season, so they are yet to find a decisive result. But I think the real call for Shock here is 1st to 8th having a 3 game win difference by the end of week 2. Oh my goodness.
That is indeed a shocking result. That's the top 8. Well, everyone except the bottom 2 can have a good shot in 1 good week to just go to the top of the standings. And I think Anka might have that opportunity, depends on the fixtures, but Psychosis, they have a rough path ahead if they want to have a proper bounce back to get to that top seed. But let's take a look at the fixtures if we're gonna have any of these matchups. And we're starting, obviously, with the Glaciers Conference. So, Kingsman, do we have any of those interesting matchups in that conference?
There's so many fixtures to pick out because the chasing pack is so close to each other. You could pick out Mokoteki Nightfall, 5th versus 6th. Pick up Sanctum Nightfall, 2nd versus 6th. Only 2 wins separates all of them. You could pick out 1st versus 3rd in Vanguard's Uranum. Both teams undefeated. But if we're going to pick out a team that I think it has a real rough week ahead, I think I'm going to look at Flame. Haven't got a win yet, and they play top of the table Vanguards tonight. And they also play 2nd Sanctum. So if they can pick up anything from there, I will be really impressed. Because that is a tough week considering a rough start to the season that they have had. But I did talk about the winless 3 at the bottom of the table. Hydras do play Volpez. So hopefully one of them is going to come out with a win and push themselves away from that bottom of the pack. So lots of matchups to look at here, but guaranteed lots of movement in that chasing pack.
Yeah, that's at least what we hope. But we already had a tier in a conference where there were 6 draws in total, so maybe they can do it here as well. We never know. Like every match is just gonna be random. But now moving to the Ignis conference, Pegasus. Do we have the same situation over there, or do we have some results or matchups that can actually change the entire table?
Well, we actually have something very similar to Challenger here, where Recon, the team currently sitting in first, have the opportunity to play the second place team Tizok and 10th place team Psychosis. And that's all going to happen quite late in the week, happening on the 4th and the 5th. In fact, this entire conference actually finishing quite early. But also, I feel like there's going to be, Onka trying to fight themselves back into the pack, and that's going to happen against 20 Robin and Caligo here to try and join that kind of top 8. And then Psychosis, their other match is going to be against Mirage, and those are going to be the real 2 teams that I think have an opportunity to change things around here alongside Recon.
Yeah, and there we have the fixtures for rival tier, everything to look out for, and like I said, or similar as what we have in Challenger at the Ignis conference. Let's see if the two also have the same outcome at the end of week number 3. Now let's move 1 tier up. We're almost at the top. We're now going to Elite. And as normal, the tier that thinks they're a bit master, but they're not quite there yet. Now let's take a look. Kingsman, what's happened in Glacis?
Only 1 draw and a huge result for 3 teams. 3 teams go double win, 3 go double loss. Severance, Volpes, and Cyclone all find themselves on double loss weeks. And Temple, Darkness, and Leviathans all double win. There is an absolute argument that there could be a runaway of these top 3. Darkness getting a sweep onto Shinjuru and getting a sweep onto Cyclone to secure an 8-0 week. Temple getting a 3-1 onto Blaze and a 3-1 onto Volpes. And Leviathans also getting a 3-1 onto Volpes. Not a good week for them. And they also managed to pick up a 3-1 onto Severance. So there's a bit of a theme here. The teams that have gone double win beating the teams that have gone double loss in this week. So I think there's really going to be a gap between the top 3 and the rest of the pack.
Yeah, let's wait till we are at the standings. But Darkness 8-0 week. Props to them for pulling it off. Temple 6-2, Leviathan 6-2 as well. Great results. Curious to see how the standings have shaped up. Now, before we get there, first, Pegasus, let's talk about the results from the Ignis conference.
Well, I spoke about it being so exciting last week with only 1 draw. This time, there was unfortunately 4. Carbo and Scorch drew each other and their other games, so they'll be both holding on to double draw weeks this week. However, there were double wins for Atlakoya and Insanity, with Atlakoya actually grabbing a sweep versus Echelon. The only other sweep this week was 20 Raven versus Tigris, making them positive, despite their loss to Deception. And Deception actually were the only other win plus loss team this week, with a loss also against Insanity.
Yeah, their win and loss all around, and 2 sweeps in total. Now let's take a look at the standings to see how everything has changed after this week number 2. And obviously we're starting in the Glacis conference, so Kingsman, take it away.
Darkness double sweep, and it means they lead the pack on 13 wins, 3 wins, 1 draw. And Temple haven't lost or drawn a series yet. They're 4 wins out of 4, but 4 consecutive 3-1s mean they drop below Darkness, who've been able to secure all 4 games. Leviathan's only 2 wins behind on 10. They picked up a loss in week 1, but a big bounce back week for them secures them that 3rd place spot. Blaze, they picked up another win-loss week, and it's enough for 8 wins. Saturnia bounced back from a winless week 1 to also be on 8 wins. Centurions picking up their first one of the season, leapfrogs them above Shinjuru and Severance, who both have wins, but couldn't find them this week. They are all on 7 wins. And the 2 teams not to win at the bottom, Volpes on 5 wins, and Cyclone, who have not drawn or won a single series, on 3 wins, but they are picking up those individual games where they can.
Yeah, and that's where it matters, right? If you're at the bottom, you just have to slowly start with something before you can make to the rest. But like you said, the top three, they're slowly getting a bigger difference compared to the rest. Let's see when we get to the fixtures if they have the opportunity to even extend further during week number 3. But first, we're going to take a look at the Ignis conference. And Pegasus, how has everything changed over there?
Well, sitting at the top is still at Lakoya, but now Insanity have managed to grab themselves an extra 2 wins to add to their already perfect tally to get equal game wins to that top side. Insanity and Carbo being the only 2 teams to be undefeated so far this season, but at Lakoya's sweeps do keep them in that first place spot, and Carbo, just unfortunately too many draws, holds them behind Insanity here. It was 2 places lost here for Deception, although they do have equal game wins to Carbo. And at the bottom, we just see a swap between Bladesmiths and Echelon. But on the wider sense of things, there was a 4-win difference between 1st and 10th last week. It is now opened up to 8. And of course, with those top 4 teams having double-digit game wins.
Yeah, and here as well, like you said, it has opened up the top 4 here still, being relatively close, but the rest has a good opportunity. The eyes are really on Tigers, Eklang, and Bladesmith if they can bounce back a little bit, because they are the ones really trailing the pack at this point. But overall, it's looking better than the Glaciers conference. Now let's move to the fixtures for week number 3. We're going to have any of those interesting matchups, and let's move to Glaciers first. So, Kingsman, anything interesting happening over there?
None of the top 3 play each other this week. This could be a week for them to move away from the chasing pack and push forward as Temple play Severance and Shinjuru, both on 7 wins, looking to climb to that top 6. They have a mountain to climb in the side that haven't drawn or lost a game, pulling consecutive 3-1s out here. Darkness coming off an 8-0 week. They play Centurions in 6th and Blaze in 4th. This is a real opportunity to secure themselves as a top 3 team and push further away from Blaze in 4th place. And that would really cement them as a team to beat if they went double win again. And looking at the other team, Leviathans, they play Shinjuru in a week that could define how Shinjuru's season could play out, as they could drop further and further away with a poor week here. And Leviathan's also taken on Cyclone, who have a tough week in themselves with their other game being against Saturnia. But who knows? Elite for me is the most exciting tier, produces the most amount of shocks. So maybe Cyclone can cause a surprise this week.
Yeah, so a little bit of pressure on Cyclone if they can do it. But like I said, for Darkness, for Leviathans, the opportunity to extend their lead even further is going to be very crucial. So let's see if they can pull it off. But we'll have to wait. Same as for everything that's going to be happening in the Ignis conference. But Pegasus, is there anything interesting about to happen in that Ignis conference?
Well, Thanatos have a double header on Wednesday versus 20 Raven and Bladesmiths, and you put your eyes on the table. Those are the 2 teams either side of them on the table, so it's going to be a very defining week for them if they can take down these 2 rosters. However, Insanity versus Carbo. This is going to be my match for week. It's currently 2nd place versus 3rd place, and it's also the only team so far in this conference that have gone undefeated. So unless we see a draw, there is potential here for someone to lose that status. So I'm hoping that's one we can get on stream. That one looks very, very exciting.
Yeah, let's really hope we can get that matchup, because all the interesting matchups that really can mess up the table, those are the fun ones to have on stream. So, if you have the opportunity to vote on it in the stream poll, then please do it, because you make our day a little bit better. And that is everything for the elite tier. We're going to move to the highest tier possible, purely because we removed Premier, but it's still the highest tier possible. We're going to Master, and we're going to talk about the results from week number 2. Kingsman, starting in Glaciers.
Well, it was a big week for Inferno, who managed to sweep over mid-table Abyss and a 3-1 over Strugglers Haven. But double win, nonetheless, will put them up there. Wyverns had to play Dominion. It was a top-table battle. Wyverns came out on top, giving Dominion their first loss of the season. Orange's Sovereign mid-table with a win-draw week. They got a win over fellow mid-table Iovi, and they also got a draw over Volpez in what would be a mid-table scrap, and that could push them further towards the top. But Wyverns and Inferno, big standout, going double win this week, and we'll see what that will do with the table.
Yeah, double win is always fun to get because, like you said, it can mess up the table completely. So let's see if we're gonna have any big changes. But first, talking about the Ignis Conference, Pegasus, what happened over there?
Well, week 1 was about the dominance of Vulcan, and using a different roster in week 2, things have started to fall apart as they have suffered a draw and a loss week, a loss to lower side Montezuma and a draw versus Nox. However, it's a double win week for Mania, who go 7-1 with a sweep against Manipulation and a win versus Nox. That same Manipulation side did also lose to Leo, but the only other team other than Mania with a double win week, also beating 20 Rock. Despite their previously mentioned win versus Vulcan, Montezuma also face a sweep against Infinity, meaning they do go negative. Hades go neutral with 3-1 wins and losses versus Infinity and Illusion, respectively.
Yeah, big results there. Let's go straight into the standings. Let's see how everything has changed. Kingsman, starting in Glacies.
Well, the double win teams find themselves at the top on 12 wins and a 2 gap to Chasers, Dominion, and Sovereign. One of the 4 of those teams have a loss. Wyverns, Inferno, and Sovereigns all unbeaten so far, which is going to be very good for them. And a 3-win gap to Haven, who were bottom after week 1. So a big rise for them this week. Iovi yet to find a win, but they hold on to that 6th place on 7 wins. Abyss have picked up a win, but it keeps them 7th on 6 wins. Tied with Volpez, another team not to get a win. Shokan have a win, but they couldn't secure games elsewhere, so they're on 6 wins. And Tempest, they have picked up a draw. So, and this is one of 2 tiers where in Glacies, a team is not 0-0-4, which is really good to see for the competitiveness of the tier.
Yeah, and not compared like the other tiers. Here we have, well, again, a little bit of a gap in the top 4, but the rest is still close to each other. That the battle for making it into the top 6 is still wide open here at the end of week number 2. Now, let's take a look at the Ignis Conference. Pegasus, how's it looking over there?
Well, the 2 teams that went with double wins this week too do get rewarded with higher placements on the table. Mania fly all their way to first place here with 12 game wins. Leo go up a few spots to 3rd, and Infinity do manage to hold on to 2nd. But the big story was Vulcan dropping down to 4th now and seeing their plus 14 goal difference drop down to 4, and their 18 goals conceded rise up to 47. So it was not a great week for them. So I'm interested to see if they can recover themselves in the next week. Mania now stand as the only team going undefeated. But overall, it's pretty close when you go from 1st to 6th, that being the play-ins boundary, with only a 4-game win difference between them.
Yeah, like I said, that is indeed a very big thing. And Mania, well, they're doing really well. They haven't lost yet. Puts a little bit of a mark on their back because every team now wants to beat them. So let's move to the fixtures. Let's see if any team has their good opportunity to beat Mania in the coming week. But we have to wait a little bit. First, we're going to talk about Glacies. So Kingsman, giving it to you.
Well, I talked about
Wow.
Dominion and Sovereigns chasing. They are chasing, but they play each other, so there's a big opportunity for games to be taken off of each other. A huge opportunity. In the meanwhile, Inferno play Iovi and Volpez, 2 teams, 6th and 8th. A big week for them. And Wyverns play Tempest and Sovereigns. So Sovereigns have a really tough week ahead, and it will show what they're made of. Show if they can compete and push towards that top 3. We also have 2 fixtures that don't appear to be scheduled, both being from Volpez. So we see them playing Tempest. Both of those teams not got wins. And same with Inferno. But that game... Those games, I'm sure, will be scheduled at some point, and we will get confirmation on those. But some big games across the table, and in my opinion, Haven have a big chance to push towards the chasing pack with Shokan in 9th and also playing Abyss in 7th.
So Haven, like I said, having a very good opportunity. For Chama, we have to wait for a little bit to see when they are going to play, but hopefully it's fixed already. Now let's talk about Ignis Conference, Sir Pegasus.
Well, there are actually two double headers happening on Wednesday here. It's Nox who are going to have to face 20 Rock and Leo all on one day, and Hades facing a very tough side in the form of Vulcan and Mania on that very same day. So it's going to be a very big day for the Ignis Conference here in Master. But speaking of Vulcan, they do also play Infinity this week, the team that is currently sitting in second place with only a one game win difference between those two sides. So there's going to be some very decisive days this week, and we're going to see that table moving a lot.
Yeah, that's always gonna be fun if we can see the table move and shift like crazy. But that's all if the teams that we expect are gonna do what we expect them to do. But you never know, because it's still RSC and every team just, well, doesn't like us. We say they have to do that and then they do something completely different. But for each and every tier, now moving to the franchise standings. Let's take a look at after week 2 how everything has changed. And Kingsman, giving it to you first for the bottom half.
Well, Volpez across all 5 tiers only have one series win, and that's in Prospect, and that sees them bottom of the table. But they do have the tied most draws, if that's a positive for them at this point. But just above them is Fearless, both returning franchises, not having the greatest start this season here, but there's lots of weeks to build. Then in a big tie, we have Might of Hades, Team Serene, and 20R on 35 wins. Following them are Death Cloud, Mao's Fort Templar, and Azteca on 36 wins. Then moving up, we have Panthera, and moving into positive, actually, already, is Alpha Surge on 41 wins. But that top half is very competitive.
Yeah, and there we have the bottom half of the franchise standings. Some franchises relatively close to each other, some really struggling. Now let's take a look at the top half. Pegasus, take it over.
Well, it was actually a fantastic week here for Legend Mania, going from 17th place all the way up to 10th, so about 7 positions going up here, with them having 42 game wins, the exact same as Symbiotes. I mean, it's close ahead of them because with 43 is Brave Esports, Forg and DSQ, followed by Shadow Esports with 44, another high riser coming 6 spots up into the top half of the table, into that top 5. And Systema Solaris, I believe this was the team in first place last week, now sits in 4th with 45, and they were ahead by quite a bit of difference. But now you can see it's all starting to get a lot closer at the top, because if we jump from 4th to 1st, there is only 3 games differences between them, with Green Phoenix snagging that first spot with 48.
Yeah, and there we have the franchise standings and the overall tier standings after week number 2. And like I said, the top 4 in franchise standing is really, really close to each other. Only 3 wins really make a big difference over there. And I'm curious to see what Mel did in the background with all the names we have with number 1. Did he change seats? Yes, I did. Flex his Clash of Clans safe on me. He did that. We could see that in the background. That our beloved caster Kingsman Gas is just playing, well, Clash of Clans because he has nothing better to do apparently. But we had all the weekly recaps. Now moving to the clip and the fail of the week, because obviously all of you submitted a lot of clips. So we're diving straight into clip of the week. Mel, let's run the tape. Alright, so Mel gets the official fail of the week for this week because he placed the wrong tape there. He was playing Simdog's fail from last week. He really wanted to, well, shame Simdog for whiffing that ball. So I don't know, Mel, why are you not nice to Simdog? Simdog's always so nice to you, and now you're just doing this to him. But we'll wait for Mel to get ready. Pegasus, Kingsman, any thoughts so far?
I mean, that Sindog clip is timeless. I mean, I'm not complaining that we got to see it for a second time. It was clip of the week. We can change it to clip of the month, and we'll give it to the fail because that's just fantastic. It's historic. Also, loving the name Wife Sister's #1 fan. I would really hope so that was the case, to be completely honest. I'm looking at you, Kingsman. But Kingsman, would you like to tell us about your Clash of Clans save?
Sure. Yes. What do you want to know? There's a list of things you can know, but I think honestly, I think we should end the poll there and give Simdog clip of the week. I think his reaction when he went back and goes and sees that he's like, wait, how did I want clip of the week? And he just sees that fail again. I think it could be brilliant, but yeah, no, it's quite sensational. Hopefully, Mao can fix that quite soon. And I've got to ask the question, Tavish, did you change sheets?
Yeah, I'm actually in a completely different house at this point. I'm at my girlfriend's place right now because I just have to be somewhere else. Because at my place, I apparently don't have lamps, so it's like I'll go to the place and the only thing I have... Oh, shit. I have my lamp over there behind me, and I hope it's more than light. I truly hope so. I look a little bit blue, but it's better than being completely dark. So, we'll see how it goes. But I heard Mel is ready in the background. Let's go, Mel. Let's run the tape. Let's... Wow, there we had all the beautiful clips, and Kingsman, gonna give it straight to you. I hope you're not flexing your Clash of Clans card this time. Which one did you like the most?
Well, to be honest, I don't know much, but apparently that third shot was hit by a prospect player. And if it was, it's one clip of the season for me. That is truly phenomenal. That I didn't know prospect players could do that. I don't think I can do that, to be honest. I'm a master. So yeah, no, really impressive. But also, I did look at his tip. I thought, oh, that's nice. And then Hazard, about 10 seconds later, just shows him up with a better clip. I would feel so awful.
Alright, Pegasus, any thoughts?
I thought it was interesting that we had two sidewalls this week, one coming from Maisie and one, of course, coming from Halo. I mean, he always ends up on a clip of the week at some points during the season, and I think he's done it again. I think that's really clean from Halo. I don't think his one bounced. It looked really close if so. Either way, clean as you'd like. That's what I'd give the winner. But again, shout out to Razor for being a prospect player and scoring a clip like that. That was insane.
Yeah, and I'm thinking here, I liked everyone's except, but I'm gonna go for Haza in the end. Beautiful redirect from the wall to go straight to the far post. So I'm going it for that one, but let's roll the tape again, and then we'll see who has won. And we're back. And the winner of Clip of the Week number 2 is Haza with that beautiful shot from the wall. I see our worse than prospect player already trying to look at me like, will he mess this up? No, I won't. But we'll dive straight into fail of the week. Let's run the tape. Let's see if we have any beautiful fails. To be fair, we expected more from you in the Master Tier, because like Pegasus said, the only reason why you are here because we can make fun of you during fail of the week. And I've gone to the Shadow Realm and I have returned because my screen just said, I don't care. Don't worry, the demons are gone, and next week, I hope. This can also be fail of the week next week, then I have won it. Well, normally fail of the week is something, in the game itself, but this was apparently so good that we just had to run it as fail of the week, maybe even fail of the season if we keep this up. But already improvement from last week. I have a light behind me, so small improvement. We're getting better each and every week. But yeah, Kingsman, Pegasus, any thoughts, or shall we just run it again and then continue?
It really does feel like that one meme of Obama giving the medal to Obama right now, having you be the host and having to present that. But one thing I've noticed, you are a fail of the week winner, Tavish, and I'm very proud of you for that. But Kingsman, he's got a fail of the week before you. What's happening? The culture's gone. The culture's gone for RSCast. What is this about?
Disgraceful. That is disgraceful.
Get off Clash of Clans, get on the pitch and start missing some balls. That's what I say.
He's trying to take my crown. And also one thing I want to know, who is that beautiful man on the right in that clip? Absolute gorgeous man. I want to get his number. So, any recommendations? Let me know.
I got some pickup lines, but I can't save them on stream.
Let's run the tape again, and we'll continue with the rest. To be fair, we expected more from you in the Master Tier, because like Pegasus said, the only reason why you are here because we can make fun of you during fail of the week. And I've gone to the Shadow Realm and I have returned because my screen just said, I don't care. Don't worry, the demons are gone, and next week, I hope. This can also be fail of the week next week, then I have won it. Yeah, and if I had a medal right now, I would give it to me and put it around my neck. Because indeed, Pig, I'm fail of the week winner. Let's go. I won it before Kingsman. Now let's dive straight into the weekly awards. Let's see how well everyone did during this week of league play. And we're going to be starting in prospect tier. Obviously, we're going to be looking there who is doing the best. So Mel, when you're ready, Kingsman, let's talk about prospect.
Everyone's favorite admin, Andre, will be MVP with 512 points per game. Your finisher will be Stones on Death Cloud with 1.88 goals per game. Your striker will be Danka Avocado on 75% shooting. Neuronics on Symbiotes will be your playmaker with 1.25 assists per game. And Scrubstore, I think, going back-to-back with the Savior this week with 2.63 saves per game. I might be wrong, but I think he's gone 2 for 2 now.
Yeah, could be. And there we have prospect. Now let's dive into the next tier. Pegasus, who did so well in Challenger that they got any of these awards?
Well, we'll start off with the MVP points per game. It is Shinsu with 561.25 points per game. Far ahead from Silver Place, not so juicy Skep. Going on to finisher, and striker, we'll do both at once. It's the Deadly Dom with 2 goals per game with a 64% shooting percentage. So it isn't a fraud one. It wasn't 2 shots, 2 goals. He has been working hard. And moving on to Playmaker, we've got Gregor Bomber for Green Phoenix with a 1.38, equaling that of Mr. Efficiency. And then for Savior, it was a player I played this week and unfortunately faced defeat against. It was Quabby with 3 saves per game.
And there we have Challenger Deadly Dom having a good week in two of the categories. Now let's go to Rival Kingsman.
Well, if the graphic shows up, we can go to Rival. It does show up. Good news. And my favourite Rival player, Deddy, will be getting MVP and the finisher. Oh, what a goat. My demon on 529 points per game and 2.25 goals per game. Absolute ripping up the Rival tier. And your striker will be Luke Foss on 63% shooting. And your playmaker will be Rolef for Sanctuary. And I see why Sanctum did so well this week. They have the MVP, the finisher, and the savior. So good offensively and defensively with Kane taking the savior with 2.5 saves per game.
Indeed, Daddy having a good start here in the first two categories, and 4 Templar in general doing really well in Rival. Now, Pegasus, let's take a look at Elite.
Elite, always entertaining. Who are the players providing that entertainment? We are just about to find out. Starting off with MVP, it's 4 Templar yet again on the board with Ellie Kitten with about 550 points per game. Finisher and shooting percentage again belongs to the same player. It will be RMD, but that's not the end of Azteca because Cal D will take it for Playmaker as well. Probably the one supplying the passes here for RMD. And Savior, we've got Systema Solaris' Fuse with a little over 3 saves per game. Fantastic week here for the Azteca side.
Yeah, in each conference so far, we had one franchise doing really well and winning most of the categories. And here in Elite, it is Azteca, RMD getting 2 here and Finisher and Striker. Now let's move to Master Kingsman.
Yes, to Master we go. And it's going to be Hylia with a whopping 680 points per game. He's your finisher as well, 2.25 goals per game. And has, from Systema Solaris, your striker with 66%. 2M will be your playmaker with 1.38 saves per game. And your savior will be Wix on 2.75. But just to shout out, Miller, who appears 4 times in the top 3 this week, in MVP in 3rd. Finisher in 2nd, striker in 2nd, and savior in 3rd. So he's sneakily had a very, very good week for himself.
Yeah, he did indeed. And Hylia, I don't know how you're going to pronounce it, in the winner of 2 of the categories. And those are all the separate tiers. Now let's go to Team of the Week, Sir Pegasus.
5 of those statistical top performers. I wonder who will have first here in Prospect. It's going to be Buckets for Forge. In Challenger, it's Deadly Dom for Shadow Esports. Rev for Might of Hades. Mithral for Shadow Esports, yet again, who find themselves on the Team of the Week. And Hylia for Panthera here in Master. But with, what was it? About 680 points per game. Can't say I'm surprised about that one.
No, you can't. And here we have all the weekly awards, the Players of the Week and the Team of the Week after week number 2. And if I'm correct, we're gonna have some more information. So Mel, do we have fantasy this week as well? I don't know. He's gonna ignore me, so I guess not. Thanks, Mel, for this. But yeah, I'm filled a week. I even have a beautiful gold medal next to my name. Well, love to see it. Well, we're not going to do any fantasy or predictions. I don't mind. Jealous of the medal? Yes, Kingsman, you are. Wishes you won something bigger? I bet you are. Well, you can't all be as good as the host of RSCast. Sorry, guys. Someone has to be the best of the pack here. But any final thoughts before we're going to close down? Also, I'm not the only one who's missing lights.
Yeah, Kingsman Gas also entering the Shadow Realm there. Don't think we didn't notice, but no. Congratulations, Tavish, on your medal. Maybe I will get one day. And Kingsman Gas, I expect to see you next week. I'm just going to say it again. I better be seeing you next week.
Well, no promises, but I'll do my best. But don't worry, I entered the Shadow Realm to give my boy Deddy a bit of a hyping up. So it's very dedicated. Robbed of Team of the Week, in my opinion. But we can't all win Team of the Week and MVP, Daddy. It can't happen. But I'm now back from the Shadow Realm, and yes, week 2 is over.
Yeah, Kingsman wants to be Tevis. Let's go. I'll take that as a personal victory. If someone wants to be like me, I'll take it as a personal victory. But like you guys said, it's the end of week number 2, the start of week number 3 already. A lot of matchups already happened tonight, and we're not going to close down. Before, obviously, we thank everyone that is making RSC possible. The Pinchmen, Team Serene, Systema, Solaris, Brave, and Badass, all helping as the sponsors behind the league here. And, well, the 3 of us, we're doing RSCast every week, but don't forget Mel behind the scenes having a lot of fun with all the titles and all the clips and just laughing at us because, well, he's not on screen, so he can just have the fun of the night. But that is it from us tonight. Enjoy your evening, and hopefully we'll see you next week or somewhere this week doing one of the matches.